Hey guys, it's Brian here again. It's a chilly 47 degrees outside, but that's not stopping us from checking out an awesome truck. Today we're talking about the Toyota 4runner SR5. And before we get started, I just wanted to give you a quick look at the window sticker. For just around 45 and change with some good equipment, you can get your hands on one of these. Here's some more information about it. This one has the premium audio package, which gives you the 8-inch touchscreen and a couple other perks. Of course, they do equip them with some extra stuff because that's usually what people want. And yeah, that's what it looks like. So in today's video, we'll start with the outside, then we'll do the engine and drivetrain, work our way inside, and take it for a drive. Let's begin. Since 1985, the 4runner came out to serve people who liked pickup trucks but wanted a little bit more protection for their gear, accessories, or tools. And the 4runner still stands strong as a very reputable piece and member of a small market with very little competition. With a nearly ancient design in engine and powertrain, let alone still being body on frame, what you get with the 4runner is a heavy, rugged, extremely durable, and extremely reliable truck made by Toyota, who is already known for that reliability and technology that's so old that it virtually can't break. But being a 2022, they've peppered in a little bit of the tech that you want, including Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. But of course, you still have the rugged style, which is where I like to begin. I like to begin in the front, speaking of style. On the 4runner, nothing has changed for 2022. We still have these awesome projector lights. And in a world where fog lights are disappearing, we still have the fogs. And for the last couple of years, Toyota's been doing small updates, but keeping it still 4runner. When you get close to the lights while they're on, you'll notice these beautiful projectors are coming factory with LED bulbs. And not only that, instead of going cheap on the fogs, you're getting a beautiful white LED for the fog light as well, which is really going to help you see in the woods, which is pretty much where a 4runner is expected to be. But in case you're a highway warrior, those projector beams are going to shoot that light very far down the road and help you see what's happening way ahead of time. And speaking of lights, on the 4runner, you still get the interestingly designed plastics here that are hiding these nice bright red LEDs, which are going to be super bright red at nighttime at any distance, which is really going to help people see you from wherever they are so that they don't hit your precious 4runner. But since you know I like to do a full walk around, I want to maintain the frontal angle before we work our way to the side. You almost have the spirit of the Tacoma peeking behind the 4runner with headlights that are a similar shape. But something that we're noticing for the last couple of years now with Toyota is a lot of them are coming with these great black badges. And unlike the Tundra, which is pouting in chrome all over the place, there's only a small bar of chrome here. Unless you go with a limited. This is an SR5, which is your base level. If you go with a limited, you'll have a much bigger bumper with a bigger chin line. It almost looks like a beard. A lot more chrome. It has the full milk mustache. And on the limited, you'd also have chrome accents on the sides. And of course, the bigger wheels and different drivetrain. Lots of airflow with the 4runner. Behind this matte black, kind of like diamond basket weave design, you have your simple cooling system and the sensor for the Toyota Safety Sense, which if you're the average 4runner consumer, you likely don't care much about that, but you're still getting it, which we will go into later on. Something I appreciate about the 4runner that I wish Tacoma had a little bit more of was a rugged design on the bezel here for the fog light, which is really nice. Some people mention that they don't like that this is a fake vent here. I'm not too concerned with it because at a distance, it just looks cool. Nothing too hardcore for the muscle lines on the hood, but you still do have a little bit of that dip instead of just a flat clamshell like some vehicles have, and that kind of reminds you that you have a nice 4.0 under the hood, which we're going to dive into soon. Working our way to the side. That classic truck with a cap look with a little bit more style on the 4runner. It's funny, the simple story behind the 4runner was Toyota basically rigged a cap onto the pickup because it didn't have the name Tacoma, and that kind of birthed the idea for the 4Runner in the 80s. That might have even been the late 70s when they were playing with that idea. Standard on the SR5 are going to be your all-season tires on a 17-inch rim. It's not going to be a small rim like you might see on an off-road truck. I would say the 17 inches for a SUV this size are going to be good for the highway, great for regular driving, and just small enough to give you the torque you need if you're doing a little bit of rock crawling. The tires, though, it is an all-season tire, so you're not going to be prepared for any type of a, heavy-duty rock crawling and off-roading and stuff like that, because they wanted to design the SR5 with multiple purposes in mind. Of course, Toyota does rotate through a different set of tires on each 4Runner, but it's a simple tread. It's going to handle the rain, maybe some snow. I mean, it does have a very nice bulletproof 4x4 system. This one so happens to have the Predator tube steps, which are very popular. This is a stock Toyota option. These are more aggressive of a style, but they kind of hang down a little bit lower than some of the other side steps. So if you do intend on doing any type of off-roading or rock crawling, these hanging low are low-hanging fruit for damage. So something to consider if you're picking between floorboards and you are going to off-road in it. This might not actually be worth it, but for the everyday, the aggressive style is definitely something nice to look at, and it's eye candy for the 4Runner owners. The black badge theme maintains throughout the whole entire vehicle here. So SR5 badge right on the side, which is where you would see the off-road badge if it was off-road. Has a nice little bit of pop to it. It's a very square, boxy look to the 4Runner, which I think is an acquired taste that people really enjoy. And you have these old school, they're almost like a square design on the taillights. I showed you the LEDs, and when you hit the brakes, they're going to be super bright. But something that's funny is, instead of an LED turn signal, you have this huge yellow bulb with a giant reflector, and it's going to make these turn signals very bright. So not that I'm an LED fanatic, but it's interesting that on the front and back you have this blend between LED technology and the old school incandescent. But I will say at nighttime, the turn signals on the 4Runner are very visible. And as a Tacoma owner, I kind of would have liked to have a dedicated yellow signal, because I feel like the red signals are just tough for some people to realize where you're signaling. But yeah, check out the black. The black badges are a must. They're called emblem overlays. So it's actually an overlay that goes over the emblem, and it makes the emblem pop out a little more. It makes it a little fatter. Bald edges here, lots of muscle in the back. It's huge. It's got a huge butt. It's a 4Runner. And at a side angle, you have this little kind of winglet that I call a duckbill, which is actually going to tuck away and hide your wiper. And it's kind of ironic, because something that a lot of car reviews mention is they mention the rear wiper when they get to the back, and a lot of reviewers say that they would have preferred Toyota start integrating their wipers up top and hiding them. It's ironic to me that the most ancient dinosaur-like, dated and loved and coveted utility vehicle actually has the wiper tucked away, whereas the Sienna and the Highlander, which are supposed to be Toyota's cutting edge for technology, especially the hybrid technology, they ironically have the wiper down here. So I just think it's kind of funny that the 4Runner, which is our last dinosaur, has a feature that a lot of the modern people want. Let's get a look down below. So since you see this little tow hitch here, the 4Runner can tow up to 5,000 pounds when equipped. So yeah, there's the styling. It's a boxy styling. It's got boxy muscle. It's been like this for the last few years, and there's a lot of talk about the 4Runner changing soon and going hybrid. Speaking of which, let's pop the hood and talk about the engine and drivetrain. Under the hood, you will be greeted with That's right, hood struts. Another thing that the modern Toyotas don't usually come standard with, but the 4Runner has, which is kind of nice, I will admit. As a Tacoma owner, they have a heavy hood. You're greeted with a 4.0 six-cylinder. It's the V6 with a 5-speed electronic automatic transmission with real gears. It's pretty much been the same for years. It's ultra reliable, and the power plant here is offering you 270 horsepower with 278 foot-pounds of torque. As I put it, it gets the job done, but it is not a racing SUV. And even though the 4Runner is great at doing everything utility and everything durable and everything reliable, the one thing that you sacrifice with the 4Runner is the fuel economy. So despite this simple design, which people love, you're going to be lucky to get 20 miles a gallon on the highway, and you'll actually be blending somewhere around 17. But we all know when you get a 4Runner, you're not buying it for efficiency. You're buying a tank that can survive the zombie apocalypse and pretty much whatever happens, because you're going to have some external gas tanks packed on somewhere near the ladder that you have on the hatchback. Let's just take a minute to appreciate the very simple design of this 1GR FE engine. The battery's right up front. It's super easy to slide out into place when you need to. I can check my brake fluid just by looking at it. My fuses and relays are not tucked away. Even getting to my brake system, I don't really have to remove plastics up top like you do on a lot of other vehicles. So my brake booster and my master cylinder are right there, and when it's time, which who knows when it will be, you'll have to dust through cobwebs and get to this thing, and it'll be easy to get to. The dust cover here pops right up, and you have access to your coil packs very easily. And the cooling system, with the removal of this plastic, you can pretty much just slide your radiator out like a Game Boy cartridge. Onto the other side, I can literally do the air filter anywhere. I could be in a McDonald's parking lot and change my air filter on the fly, and I can check my power steering fluid just by glancing at any distance, assuming I have good vision. Turning this way, I can see right from the side if my coolant is full or low, and checking the oil couldn't be easier. It's right up front. I barely even have to bend over and reach like you do on a lot of other vehicles. You can see there's plenty of space for heat management, and pretty much every component on this engine is easy to get to. I can look down here and I can check to see if there's dried up coolant on my hoses after 200,000 miles. And if I needed to replace a hose, I could get any universal hose from an auto store once I have 350K on the clock, and I can replace it right there and do my coolant, burp the system, and I'm done. So not only is it nice for the at-home mechanics to work on, it's very simple to diagnose if you know a thing or two. But there's the engine and powertrain. Let's get to something more exciting for people that don't care about this stuff. Let's open up the hatch and talk about the cargo space and work our way inside. So it's a beautiful fall season and you're getting ready to pack your family up on a trip. You want to know how much space is in the 4Runner cargo area. Well, when you open up the hatch and your back row is still up, you're greeted with a massive 47.2 cubic feet of space. Now this vehicle does have an optional third row, which will elevate this shelf by a couple inches and remove a little bit of that room. But if I step back just a couple feet, you will see this 4Runner has lots of cargo space without you having to fold down that back row. And before we fold down that back row, let's just take a look and appreciate this huge bumper protector here that Toyota is giving you on all the 4Runners, so that when your dogs jump in and out, they can scratch this up instead of your beautiful painted bumper. And instead of going cheap and giving you a boring, flat little line of plastic here, they built in this very cool boulder-like rugged design, which I think just gives it a great look, because when the hatch is closed, which is not electronic by the way, it adds a little bit of dimension and style. So a quick analysis of the cargo area. Toyota will give you 4 heavy-duty D-rings in the cargo area, so you can ratchet strap your belongings down. Use your imagination. Say you're moving, you have a hobby, it's for work, you have equipment. And we're seeing this from Toyota. Very cool, old school, doesn't do a lot, just got some band-aids and stuff, but check this out. You get to do that and show off to your friends. Pretty cool stuff. Also in the back of the 4Runner, you're greeted with this house plug and old school 12-volt plug. So you can plug in heating pads for the dogs, accessories, low-powered blenders, or Christmas lights, whatever you're into. And if I remove this very cool original owner's portfolio, because we all keep and read our user manuals, right? We don't just use a PDF. There's a pretty big cubby here which can fit a giant jug of washer fluid, which in a lot of people's trunks just roll around and eventually spill. Also, quick easy hook for an envelope bungee net. Look that up, you'll love owning one of those. And then you'll see the sliding area for the tonneau cover, which would go into here spring loaded, and you can pull a tonneau cover. Not a common accessory on the 4Runner, but it does exist. And some 4Runners also have the shelving system, which has a slide out shelf that can hold enough weight for you to pretty much make a barbecue lunch for all of your friends. Behind here, we have quick access to our tools and our jack. Underneath here, there's not a lift because the spare, which is a full size, is going to be right underneath. Let's fold down the back row and see what it looks like with even more space. So I'd like to show you how to fold down the seats in your back row here. Now, if you're new to the 4Runner and you had a Tacoma or you had a different Toyota vehicle, it's going to take a little bit of muscle, but you'll be fine because if you own a 4Runner, you're using your muscles. You're going out and you're having fun. So you pull this up, give it a little bit of a pull, and it comes forward. Then there's a little lever here, like on the old school Rabs, to fold down your headrest. And what's gonna happen is this is gonna fall down and that headrest is gonna fit right into this area here. Now the way I get this down is I'm pushing on this little round thing. And it's kind of just gonna start coming down on its own, but I'm gonna go super slow because I don't wanna scratch up my headrest. Down it goes. Find the rope, give it a pull, see how it clips in. Do my headrest, and down she goes. Voila. And now I have a two-seater, 89.7 cubic feet pickup, basically. Check out the space. Where I can fit kayaks, a dresser, 2 college students moving to college, maybe 3, pinball machines that I restore, lots of dogs, an air mattress if I'm not 6'5" or taller, and I have these nice trays here where I can put my coffee. I even have some trays here where I can put a little clutch or a bag or some food and some snacks. And I can lay down, put some blankets down, maybe some guards for the windows, and I can camp out of this 4Runner if I don't feel like having a tent on the top. So yeah, plenty of space in the 4Runner. This is a great example of a more rugged utility vehicle than your typical one like the Highlander. Say you don't need to ship as many people around and you just want that space. Speaking of the space, let's fold these seats back up and sit in them and talk about how they feel. So a fun fact about the 4Runner that I'm a bit jealous of as a Tacoma owner is that there's a little lever here. And if I pull this lever up, I can recline my seat to be more comfortable. And not that I travel in the back of my Tacoma, but the Tacoma has a very upright seat in the back, which is common on pickups. And I do pack it with my friends. And it's so nice to imagine being in a 4Runner because by pulling this little guy up, I can lean back pretty far. So how's the space in the back of a 4Runner? I think it's great. I think that because the Highlanders are good, the Tacoma's okay, and at 5'10", I fit pretty much great into everything. And this seat's back pretty far. It is a stadium style seat, so here's my eye level. I can see just over the head of my passenger, which in the Tacoma, it's a little bit more like this. My shoulder is just about here. I feel a bit more exposed than the 4Runner, but I'm fine with that. Because with these big windows, I can see the open world, no claustrophobia at all. And I do a lot of Tacoma comparisons because, oh, funny, look. A lot of people considering the 4Runner also consider the Tacoma, and there are a lot of switches back and forth. So some people have a Tacoma and they eventually go to a 4Runner, and some of them have a 4Runner and actually go to a Tacoma. So I'm going to mention another comparison. I wish I had these in the Tacoma, which the 4Runner has. Having the rear vents is amazing because in the Tacoma, until it goes TNGA, which will probably change this. The Tacoma doesn't have these, which means Tacoma owners have to blast their front vents. And on a hot day, the Tacoma owners will have to freeze their front occupants just to get adequate AC to the back passengers when they're taking a ride down to Tennessee. And from New York to Tennessee, at least to Johnson City, is like 10 hours. So if it's summertime, which we've done that ride before, my people in the back, I got to check on them. And the 4Runner, not a concern, because you have the ventilation that you need so everybody's comfortable. And also, very accessible are 2 regular USB plugs, whereas in the Tacoma, they would be tucked away in here and you'd have to run a wire out. Also on both seats are a nice mesh holder here for magazines and things, and the mesh is kind of cool because you can see what's inside. The Tacoma truck will have a solid fabric one on this side only and nothing here. So you have these mesh dividers here to hold your books and magazines, maybe a little hoodie or something. Use your imagination. So yeah, here's the styling of the back. This one, the owner did decide to add on some of the rain guards, which are nice. These are the WeatherTech rain guards. Let me know what you guys think of rain guards. Are they worth it? And do you do the stick-on or the in-channel? The gray upholstery on the top, unlike my Tacoma's black upholstery, adds a little bit of pop and adds some light. And the fabric design is neat. In fact, I can feel this ribbed design in the fabric on my body when I sit down, and it's kind of cool instead of just a flat. Like, I can actually feel when I move my leg the difference between the two, and it kind of feels nice. And these little channels here will actually prevent me from getting really hot, so this allows for some airflow on my body. So when I'm sitting here, my body can actually, I mean, we're getting sciencey here, but these little channels here will help me manage my body temperature a little bit more. And when I combine that with these, I will say, guys, a 4Runner rear passenger is going to be more comfortable than a Tacoma rear passenger. They have these channels, they have the vent, and they have the recliner button. Much more space back here. And that leads me to say, the conclusion on this is going to be interesting when I compare it to the Tacoma. But yeah, without harping too much on the back, one-piece mat, just like in the Tacoma trucks, pretty common in the vans and in the Highlander, Sienna and Highlander. A little tough to get out on some of them, but you hose it down, it's good to go. It covers everything up. Seat belt's very easy to use. So if you have a car seat, not only are the hooks very easy to get to, they're right in there. Toyota uses the latch system, so it's very easy to put car seats in this, and they're much more spacious. And before we go, I forgot the door card. So you have the bottle holders here, not a very long card because you have the speaker. I think it's adequate use of the space. But what I really like about this is the soft material here with real stitching, by the way. And when you go over this little hump, you have a moat with a little dotted basketball texture cargo area so you can put your things in the door. And what's nice is, instead of taking away a door handle like on some cars and changing the armrest, it's actually in the perfect spot. So I can rest my arm. These door cards are very nice. I will say they're higher quality than the Tacoma truck at the base level. In fact, this SR5 4Runner has higher quality door cards than an off-road Tacoma. Soft material here with a real stitching, more storage, a unique material here. So instead of just a boring hard plastic card like you get on a Tacoma, there's dimension here. And I have more soft plastic here. This is like a leatherette on both. So if I'm leaning against it or on it, it's comfortable. Whereas with Tacoma, you just get you gotta watch my Tacoma reviews. Tacoma, you just get kind of like a soft plastic with like a basketball texture. With this, they're adding in more of a luxury feel. No, it's not a Lexus, but this is nicer, and I'm not afraid to say it. And that soft material goes all the way up, all the way through. So it's soft all the way down, and the only hard plastic I have is on the bottom portion, which actually is still not as hard and scratchy and scratch prone as the Tacomas. So very interesting. That may be a deciding factor for some people when they're comparing the two, if they don't necessarily need the bed. I feel more quality on these door cards. Anyway, let's move up to the front. Just wanted to capture that super white paint in the sunlight. Finally, we have a little peek of sun. Boy, does that white pop. Wish you were here in real life because it's almost hard to look at that white paint in the sunlight. It does pop. It's awesome. So just like on the back door, we have the same style door card with the harder plastic here that's still not as hard and scratchy as the pickups. But now we have a bit more space with a longer slot. No rubber material in here, anything fancy. Nobody really cares about that stuff. But the soft material, the real stitching, which is great, and another one of these little cubby areas to put your trinkets and treats without getting in the way of this nicely placed handle that is kind of easy to operate the door. It's almost a little too close to the hinge. You got to give it a little bit of a pull. If it was an inch out, Toyota has their reasons. You know, when you take the average forearm length, it works. It's great. It's ergonomic. The soft material, though, I like it a lot. Here's what it looks like getting into the Copilot seat of the 2022 Toyota 4Runner SR5. And another thing we've noticed that changed is the 4Runner, sorry for the shadow, the 4Runner logo on the floor mats is actually black now instead of gray like it used to be, because the black, when it takes these little footprints over years and years, isn't going to look as dingy as a light gray one would. And it's nice to see that the floor mats lock on the passenger side as well, because in pickups and SUVs that don't lock on the passenger side, you see the floor mat getting kicked up and forward and folded up all the time. So that's nice to see. Let's jump inside. Good visibility, very similar to the Tacoma. There is a small blind area here that you won't have in a RAV4 or a Highlander because the mirror would be on the door and there'd be more clearance. But it's definitely doable. And, you know, drivers can look a little bit, see when you just turn your head a little bit, you can see. Nice big mirrors, same size as the Tacoma, so it's very easy to see. And if placed in the right spot, you almost have no blind spot in these. The mirrors are a great size. Something people comment a lot is the window buttons. They say they're awkward being up here because you have to raise the arm up to kind of push down on them. I guess some people thought it'd be a better idea for the window button to be down here. And I agree that it's funky, but it adds to the quirkiness of the look and feel. You know, it gives it that tanky kind of vibe. But if you think about it, where would Toyota put the button? Because if they put the button down here, it gets lost. And Toyota wants you to be able to tell where the button is at all angles, which you can here, see? Here, the button's only seen when you're sitting back, so if your seat's forward, you might have to look and they don't want you to have to do guesswork. So I would just imagine that was the mentality behind it. Plus it adds to the quirkiness and the very square, upright design of the 4Runner. I'm just gonna get this out of the way for the point of aesthetics. If you're new to the 4Runner, you're greeted right away with a very utilitarian design. Down to the seats, same channels. It's crazy. Through my pants, I can feel these channels. It's very cool. I like the feeling of this. I'm not drooling over it, but I'm just saying, like, it's nice. It actually kind of feels good. I like that a lot. I hope to see that in the trucks. Big glove box. And when we take out this massive literature, I'd like to know what you think in the comments. Do you think Toyota and other manufacturers will eventually get rid of all of this paper and just give you a QR code to scan so that you have the user manuals on a PDF? Because frankly, I barely really look at these because they're on the Toyota app. So let me know what you think. I'd imagine the 4Runner will be the last one to do it, because if any owners will read these, it would be a 4Runner owner. But do you predict it? Because I do. These usually just get tossed in a bag somewhere at home, because you want to utilize all this space. And speaking of simplicity, it's super easy to change your cabin air filter, which is right there. I would imagine that these little slots over here, maybe you could run some accessory switches, but I could be wrong. But yeah, very big glove box in your Toyota 4Runner. And you also have this little lip here and here, so you can run some custom shelving, which is something that a lot of people with the trucks like to do. Something else I appreciate about the 4Runner that I hope you do as well is this steel wood grain pattern here that you have on the dash. Instead of them going with a light silver, which might look a little too tacky and cheap, they're breaking up the black with this steel wood grain, which is cool. Now, it doesn't have a steel feel to it when you tap it, but it looks very nice. And then these two giant silver boulders, which play nicely with the silver that we have here, which has like a sandblasted effect instead of chrome. Speaking of chrome in the interior, the only places they did chrome in the interior are the emblem, which I like, the little ring around the push button starter. Down by the 4-wheel drive, it's all sandblasted, which they removed because on a lot of vehicles it's chrome down here. So this is all sandblasted appearance. But then just a little lever here. On the Tacoma, the bezel around the round vent would be chrome. But yeah, so not all chromed out, which I expect Toyota finally realizes people don't like, and just chrome on the door handle. I do see a lot of people modify the chrome. I think that leaving the little chrome parts are nice because as you're driving, they fleck the light and play with the light nicely. And it makes them a lot easier to find right away when it's dark. So if you did these all matted out in black, yeah, it might look cool, it might look murdered out. But when you do everything in matte at nighttime, when your passengers need to find something real quick to adjust, they're going to be looking even longer because there's no light for that. Just a small detail. So yes, this is what it looks like being the Copilot. Let's jump into the driver's seat. We'll start it up. I'll talk about some of the controls and we'll take it on a quick spin. So the elephant in the room that all of the anti-technology people are upset about. Well, I guess. I mean, a lot of people love these. It's now on the 4Runners. Instead of a turnkey, when you have the upgraded package on the 4Runner, you have a smart key. And though it can be convenient, you don't have the sensation of pulling the key out and knowing you have your key. So you have to track and remember where this little guy is. I just keep mine in my pocket. The key fob, here's the old school one. Here's the new school one. You just leave it in a spot you remember. And with the key fob on you, you can unlock the vehicle just by grabbing the door handle. And when you shut it off, you can lock it just by pushing here. And it locks right up. The great part is, if you had your key fob in your pocket or your bag and you lost it in the car somewhere, if you go to lock the car either here or from the outside, it will beep and it will unlock, and on the little screen here it will tell you that it senses a key in the vehicle. So that's the great part. You're never stranded with a smart key. And if and when the battery finally dies, there's a little lever that you can pull down, and this little slide out key will come out. And you can take that key, you can unlock your 4Runner, and you take your dead key fob that doesn't have a battery working anymore. And when you push the brake, you can take the dead key fob and push it against your push start, and it's just enough to sense it and it starts right up. So pretty convenient and fun, as long as you remember how to use it and where you left it. But here it is, the moment we've been waiting for. Getting inside the 2022 Toyota 4Runner SR5. Simple push of the brake and the push start button. Pretty cool intro, the outer space with the shooting stars there. So at 5'10", with the seat in the right position so that I can touch my wrist to the steering wheel with the elbows back and a slightly bent knee in the full braked position, I will say the visibility is awesome. And we have these huge round knobs for the climate control system instead of the quirky, screeny thing that they do on a lot of the competition. You have a nice tactile feel with these diamond cuts so that you really know. Feels like I'm opening up a safe. There's no guesswork. I can wear the thickest work gloves and I can operate the system very easily. What's also nice is these lights on the inside are a beautiful blue, which you see in most Toyotas these days. Everything is easy to get to. This is the steering wheel that we all know and love. If you don't love it, that's okay. But it shares the same steering wheel as the Tacoma and the previous generation Tundras. It's simple, it's easy to use. It has one quirk. The songs go up and down, but the volume goes side to side. But as a Toyota truck owner, I'm used to that. Not a ton of tech here, no buttons on the back to forget what they do. You can connect it to Bluetooth. You can even voice command it. And there even is an MID screen here where you can operate different information on the vehicle. Another very appreciated feature of the 4runner is the very simple, easy to read analog display for the speedo cluster with a couple basic bits of information. The 4runner takes regular gas. The V6 will be very happy with that. And like I said, just pushing these arrows, you have a couple menus here. So since this has the audio upgrade package, it does have navigation, which will get you an additional screen so you can see what general direction you're going in. You got some gas mileage info, range, etc. Touchscreen with a backup camera right on it. No parking sensor, so nothing to beep at you when you get close, but you can see the bumper right there. No electronic parking brake, no automated stuff. If you want to press the parking brake, there's a little push switch right here. Then you get your park symbol. Just push again to release while pressing the brake. But I have to say it because I've been holding it in. The best feature of the 4runner is, wait till I do it, ready? The automatic, fully descending rear windshield. Dogs love it, kids love it, everybody loves it. And when you open up that rear windshield, you get a beautiful flow of air from the front windows all the way down to the back. And speaking of windows, another nice thing, an ironic thing, is that the Tacoma, which is supposed to be the testing hamster for technology and the little bit more modern of the trucks, I mean, if we're leaving out the 2022 Tundra, only has the automatic up and down on the front too for most of them. The 4runner has for a longer time had automatic down on all four and automatic up on all four, which is something we really only see on TNGA Toyotas. So a feature that's only on the most modern Toyotas has been stock and standard on the 4runner for a long time. So there's one touch down and one touch up, fully down all around, including the back windshield. Amazing. And you're greeted with Toyota's soon-to-be outdated, well, I used the wrong word, soon-to-be last generation infotainment system. The simple to use, not quite as fast as the new infotainment system, but still amazing. Simple, in my opinion. I've seen much worse on some of the competition. You get the navigation with that package. Turn and dial here for the power. These are buttons we've seen in Toyotas for a long time. Simple hazards button, easy to get to. And Toyota's famous easy to read, easy to change clock. Another upgrade for $129, you can get the, from the factory, dual USB port. Rapid charge in the front. Looks a little aftermarket, but that's actually Toyota factory equipment here to pair well with your USB, which would otherwise operate your Apple CarPlay and Android Auto because it's not wireless, it's fully plugged in, but it has it. So what that means is if you plug your phone into this USB, you have a connection where you can play whatever apps as far as navigation you want to use and many additional phone apps as well. And for the 4x4 system, you're riding most of the time in high 2. While moving, you can turn it to high 4. It will lock in, I'd say up to speeds of about 50 miles per hour. You wouldn't want to go much faster than that. And then when you put it down into neutral, you can twist into 4 low, pick your gear, and you're good to go at slower speeds, say you're doing some off-roading. When you get the off-road, you're gonna have the multi-terrain select and the crawl control, but just a simple setup here with some buttons we'll go over in the tutorial and a sunglass case. What do you think, guys? Do you like the 4Runner? Do you own one? What do you think of the interior? Should we move on to the turn dial shifters like a lot of the competition is? Or do you like this regular shifter? Do you like the big knobs that kind of look old compared to a lot of the newer trucks? Or do you like the old school way of knobs and buttons and tactile stuff for your controls? I want to hear down below. Let's take this for a quick spin down the road and then conclude the video. And 4Runner people, you have to check out the tutorial video on this truck, but I want to give you one little treat that you'll love. Hit menu, hit display, hit screen off, and your screen is off. And you can still listen to music and enjoy the drive without all that bright light in your face. So how does it drive? In the parking lot, the steering on the 4Runner is very smooth and it has a very nice turning radius. It turns on a dime. What you'll notice right away driving a 4Runner for the first time compared to other vehicles that are similar is when you brake, it has a little bit of nosedive, and when you hit the gas, it has a little bit of squat action, like some butt winking. But like I said, that's kind of like an acquired taste. It has that high body roll, Jeepy, trucky, durable feel to it. We're gonna make this a quick ride. The visibility while driving is definitely nice. Like I said, this little spot here, you can just lean over a little bit and you can see. We're gonna make a turn in just a moment. Also, the soundproofing, not as much sound as the Tacoma, which has like that hollow bed kind of echoing the wind noise. You can tell this vehicle is definitely designed for a bit more comfort in mind compared to its pickup truck counterpart. But yeah, we're gonna make this right. And then once we get to a higher speed limit area, we'll open it up a little bit. So another thing I wanted to mention is the transmission is butter smooth. So if I give it just a little bit of gas, it knows exactly when to shift if I want it to, whereas I find as a Tacoma owner, the 6-speed automatic transmission on that truck sometimes is trying to figure out where to shift based on my throttle input. I feel like the 4Runner always knows where it wants to shift and where I want it to shift, which is nice. I'm not afraid to tell you that the driving experience in a 4Runner is better than the driving experience in a Tacoma, in my opinion. But yeah, opening it up a little bit, I'm not gonna go crazy. It definitely has the juice, and I can feel more power delivery in this 4.0 6-cylinder than the 3.5 that you get in a Tacoma. All right, I'm gonna turn around. I'm just gonna brake a little bit. Even though it's heavy, I'm giving it about half braking and it stops very easily. So I have a lot of confidence in being able to stop this truck. It doesn't feel like an elephant. It doesn't feel like it's hard to manage. It's easy to see. It shifts very nice. The drive is really where it shines. If you can appreciate that trucky, durable 4x4 feel. It has that 4x4 raw, rugged, durable feel with a touch of refinement, a touch of smoothness. It's tough to describe the word. I wish I could give a word on it. But yeah, to me, it's a better drive than the Tacoma. If you don't need the bed, should we get the Tacoma? Let's go back to the dealership and conclude and talk about that. And before we get back to the dealership, I did want to mention one thing while we just kind of drive here. You can enjoy the scenery and what it's like to drive a 4Runner is, I get asked a lot with new 4Runner owners, is it all-wheel drive? It's not. it's four-wheel drive, and there is a difference. When somebody says all-wheel drive, you're generally thinking of a full-time four-wheel drive system, which means you're driving all four wheels at any given time. The part-time four-wheel drive system, which is on your rugged 4x4 trucks, means you're two-wheel drive until you select it into 4x4. So this is going to be a rear-wheel drive truck, just like the Tacoma and the Tundra, and you would select it into 4-high if you need the front wheels locked in, and it's not something you would be using on the dry pavement like we're doing today. Whereas with an all-wheel drive vehicle, like the 4runner, not the 4runner, I'm sorry, the RAV4 or the Highlander, that's something where there's no lever to push or turn. It's just driving those four wheels when it needs them. So just wanted to share that with you. There are more mechanical moving parts. You know, it is a body on frame, it's on a truck frame, and that's the 4x4 system. Just like the Tacoma, which is why I compare it to the Tacoma a lot, because people often look at both of these vehicles as options. So yes, like I said, I'm gonna get back to the dealer. We'll conclude the video and talk about if this is the one you should get compared to its pickup truck counterpart. All right, so we're back to the dealership. I gotta say, at the SR5 level, that suspension really does just handle the bumps and grooves and gravel very nicely. The question is it worth it? For 45 grand, if I need something rugged and durable, but fun to drive on my commute to work, is the 4runner worth it? Is it worth getting over the Tacoma that has a bed? And here's my answer. If you like the Tacoma and the 4runner, but you're a little bit more concerned about space in the back because you ride with more than one person, including yourself, I think the 4runner is definitely the better option for you. If you would like the idea of having a truck bed, but you don't necessarily need it all the time, I think the 4runner is definitely for you. If you need a truck bed and you need an area that's going to take a mess, so gravel, mulch, manure, cement materials, you know, and cargo like that, skip the 4runner and get the Tacoma because the bed is separated. If you need a cargo area that needs to be more protected and secure, and you don't need a huge payload or a huge tow capacity, but you need some of that utility and versatility, 4runner. Especially if you have back passengers that you want to be comfy, and, you know, yes, you want to put some kayaks, maybe put some furniture in there, 4runner all day. So I hope that helps you decide. Thank you for watching. If you're new to the 4runner and this video helped you, please let me know. I hope the video did serve you well, and please consider subscribing. I promise it'll be worth it, because I'm giving you a cutting-edge view from an insider's perspective of what these vehicles are like and how they compare, which will help you while you're shopping in the market or have friends and family. But with that said, comment down below what you thought you liked, what you didn't like. You know, you can always catch me in the comments, and I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.